Look at that. When it's just you and me, Bob, we start on time.
Look at that.
Amazing. No
I'm
technical
on
difficulties.
I'm on the East Coast, so I don't have to wake up as early as you do.
Yeah. Oh, you get used to it after a while. All right, I'm going to retweet this real quick, and then let's get this show on the road. Because we know our people who watch this on YouTube don't like waiting around for us to start. All right, let's get the show on the road. Welcome to Wall Street Beats, everybody. I'm Steve Lamar, joined by our oil and gas pro, Robert Morris. No better day than to have an oil and gas pro on the show this morning. It is March 23rd, and wow, what an exciting weekend we had. A 48-hour ultimatum, and then demands, and then
What
up with the futures down. Trump sees the futures down this morning. He says, I got some talks going with Iran. So what do you make of all this?
I mean, Steve, if we look back over the last year, maybe more, how many times has the market made a sharp turn on a tweet from Trump? I mean,
exactly. Well, that's what keeps everybody on their toes.
I mean, your first news source, your first stream read in the morning should be any tweet from Trump, because what he says can turn the market sharply one direction or the other. And that's what happened this morning. I mean, oil was up, and then he put out a tweet that they postponed for 5 days any attack on Iran's power facilities, and boom, oil collapses, the market rips, and now we're sitting here waiting to see exactly what he means and what's going to happen.
Yeah,
I was just watching.
Meanwhile, the IRGC saying that no talks have happened.
Well, it's interesting because he was just live on TV. He's still live. I'm looking at it right now, and he said, they asked him, they said, well, who are you talking to? And he said, well, I really can't tell you because that person doesn't want to be killed. Well, so that person's really not in charge, is he? You know, it's sort of very vague. And you know, nobody knows whether Khomeini's son, who's apparently the new supreme leader, is even alive or in charge, or what's going on there. And we know that Iran is still firing missiles, or whereas of yesterday, we're still attacking, you know, surrounding countries' facilities. And so when you say we're in negotiations, but you won't tell anybody who it is because you're afraid they may be killed, how much power do they really have? How much control do they have, or can they quickly assess that? And so, you know, they said they're going to continue talks today by phone, and we'll see what comes of that. But in the meantime, the U.S. has apparently agreed to not do any attacks on their power facilities until Friday. And then we'll see what happens, because, you know, the regime that appears to be in charge, at least, you know, on the face of things, said, look, you attack our power facilities, now we're going to go after the desalination facilities in the region, which is a big, big deal. And we've said from the beginning that this regime that's been in charge, they're not your normal logical people. These are religious zealots. This is a religious war to them. And we've always warned about the extreme case of a scorched earth strategy, which, you know, that seems to be, at least in the talk of it, in the direction they continue to want to go, if they are, whoever's putting out those statements is for the moment in charge, or sort of running things and, you know, carrying on public executions in the meantime. It just doesn't seem like, you know, there's any factor in charge or in control over there.
Yeah, it seems like there's a bunch of factions that are all doing their own things. It's going to be hard to ring these. It's going to be hard to ring these people, get all these people together on the same page. In the meantime, I don't see Israel having any interest in pausing their campaign. In fact, they might escalate it if they see that they might only have 5 days to continue.
Well, the one thing you know is, for this to work, there has to be regime change.
Yep.
You know, for Trump to get what he wants, what he said is no, you know, uranium enrichment, and we want their enriched uranium that they have now. We want to take it out of the country. They won't have any enriched uranium. There has to be regime change, big regime change. And all these little warlords and other factions that are making money off the old regime that exists throughout the country out there will lose power for the most part. And so that's a big, big change. There are a lot of factions that don't want to see regime change for whatever reason. Some of them are economic, otherwise. But for this to occur the way Trump wants it to occur in Israel, there has to be regime change. And I don't know that we're close to that. At least all appearances would be that we're not close to that at the moment, but we'll see. You know, Trump's saying that they're talking to someone, and they think they're constructive talks and that it could result in a regime change. So we'll see. In the
Isn't
meantime,
this all about the Strait of Hormuz being open or not? I mean, it sounds like it's going to be closed for at least another 5 days. So, what kind of, at some point, this starts to have some real economic impact that's going to take us longer to recover from.
Well, it's already had real economic impact, and it's already had real, bottom line impact on the energy companies, as we've seen those rip up here. Yeah. But and they're not off that much this morning. I mean, if you look at the energy stocks, the E&Ps, the integrateds, they're not off nearly as much as what oil prices are. They start off down, but they've all sort of bounced up. EOG is up now on the day. CNQ is almost approaching flat on the day. So the stocks themselves are saying, okay, maybe, but you know what? Yeah, oil prices have pulled back. The futures market, the strip, never was pricing in, $90, $100 oil. The December strip was always out at around 75.
Yep.
And today the December strip's at 74. So, as far as what the market tends to value these stocks on, which is not today's price, but the 12 or 24 month strip, has not come off all that much. So the stocks have held in, or at least this morning are holding in relatively well, given this pullback in the oil price. And as you pointed out, in the meantime, the Strait of Hormuz, for all practical purposes, is closed. There's no agreement. There's nothing that's changed that says you don't risk getting fired on if you try to move your tanker through the Strait of Hormuz. So, as far as the stocks here, again, the oil levered stocks, the integrateds, the E&Ps, I'm just holding on. I'm not doing anything. I'm not selling. I'm not buying any of those names. I'm not writing covered calls. The name that, just as I was looking at, well, maybe increase a little bit of my energy exposure, I did start to nibble out and buy a little bit of Baker Hughes this morning. And we talked before on the oil field service side, the only name we dipped our toe into in the last month was Schlumberger, which, we still own a little bit. But Baker Hughes became a little bit more intriguing, given what happened in Qatar, given they're in the LNG business, given that they're likely to be involved in whether it's rebuilding some of the damaged LNG facilities in Qatar or other LNG facilities here in the U.S. And they announced another agreement, long-term LNG agreement this morning. So that's a name. If you look at the other side of all this that's happening and say, well, there's going to be some sort of agreement, things start to get rebuilt, things start to get put back in place, at least on the LNG side, Baker Hughes has exposure to that. So the only name that I'm doing anything with is adding a little bit. I added a little bit to, or I started a position, started to buy Baker Hughes this morning. Otherwise, I can't call what direction this is all going to go. What I do know is that I still like the valuations for the oil levered names here, and I'm not looking to, even with oil off nearly 10%, I'm not looking to sell any of the equities here.
Yeah, I was waking up this morning thinking about, okay, if we start to get a real dislocation, at what levels do you start being a buyer in the equity markets in general? And I was kind of, in the 6,250, 6,300 S&P levels. Maybe you start to, if you're short, start covering shorts and get long. Do you have any thoughts on kind of just general levels and where you'd be a buyer of just stocks in general if there's a big dislocation?
I'm not sure yet where that is. I'm not stepping in and buying other stocks here this morning because this is sort of a knee-jerk reaction, so to speak, on a tweet from Trump, and we don't have any clarity on really what happens, what the outcome of this is. It's just impossible to predict. Yeah, the market's reaction is to say, okay, well, if this is good, if this does happen, the obvious impact is positive, but the longer-term fear overriding the market is that the higher energy prices stoke inflation. And we saw last week now all of a sudden talk of an interest rate hike, which had been totally off the table. It's not a big percentage odds, but people are now talking about, well, maybe there's an interest rate hike. And that's why gold's off so much, is this fear that there could be an interest rate hike given inflation impact from higher energy prices. So a lot of factors playing in here. I've got a lot of cash in the overall portfolio. I'm sitting on the biggest cash position I've had in,
I think a lot of us are,
several years.
Yeah.
And I'm just waiting and watching. I'm not inclined to say, oh, today's the day I'm going to go in and buy, some industrials or technology or healthcare. I'm just waiting and watching. I don't know what that level is. A lot could happen here. And if there is no agreement and this carries on and you continue to see this sort of scorched earth policy of tit for tat, you blow up our power plants, we're going to blow up your desalination facilities, and this keeps on going. It's not going to be good for the global market, and then I don't know where the bottom is. So it's hard for me to pick a bottom here, just because there's so many outcomes on the decision tree as to which direction this could go.
Yeah, next we got quarter end coming up. So want to keep this thing afloat at least through then for everyone's books to at least look remotely good.
Yeah, but I think everyone here on this show on Wall Street Beats is sitting on their biggest cash position they've had in a long time.
For sure.
That's, I've got a lot bigger cash position than I've had in years now.
Yep. All right. Why don't we call it a day on that, Bob? It's a short show. I think everyone would appreciate that. Enjoy your Monday, everybody. We'll see you back here on Tuesday. Follow us on wallstreetbeats.com and have a great day. Thanks, Bob.
Keep an eye on your true social media tweets.